What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mind of Marsal podcast. This is episode number 131. I am your host, Armando Marsal. You can find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram threads and TikTok at Mind of Marsal. Before jumping into it, I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you all. Remember, folks, if you're enjoying the podcast, enjoying the content, please make sure you follow, rate, review, like the podcast wherever it is you're consuming it. You can also catch the podcast on YouTube now at the Mind of Marsal YouTube channel there. And any requests, any topics, anything you want me to discuss on this podcast, make sure you email that to mindofmarsal@gmail.com. It is Friday, so you know what that means. I got my guy Chris Rose on with me to talk some football. We're going to talk about week 12. We're going to discuss a little bit of a Thursday night football and just all things football here. Chris, how's it going, my brother?
Hey man, good news. The article has been submitted. We are ready to go.
I mean, that is look, that means he is locked
I
and
know we're
loaded.
locked in
Like,
this week.
yeah, that means he is locked and loaded, ladies and gentlemen, which means it's usually a good week. It's funny because we've been doing this now for a couple of years, and there's like periods, right, where we get hot, and I feel like this is kind of that period where things start, getting back on track. We've had some up and down weeks, but right before Thanksgiving, then I absolutely love that Thanksgiving slate. We could talk a little bit about that later, how we feel about it. But this is kind of that time where that rush begins again, man, and I'm looking forward to. I love this slate. I think it's a very interesting slate. I think that there are really good spots to pick on here. I think there's some hidden gems as well. But yeah, man, I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. I'm looking forward to this week. I like this slate quite a bit, and I know you do as well, Chris. Before jumping into it, man, let's talk a little bit about the Thursday night football game. Did you catch that Houston and Buffalo game last night?
Yeah, I mean, what an upset there. I mean, that Houston defense, we knew it was going to be good, but that Houston defense was on another level yesterday.
Man, they're playing like that pass rush is filthy, dude. Like that pass rush is filthy. The Bills offensive line they had no chance yesterday against that unit there. Josh Allen was pressured left and right. It was like over and it was kind of like you're watching just like, geez, like when is it gonna stop? And it was just all night. Obviously they're getting on the offensive side, they're also getting Houston's getting production from their young men. Like Woody Marks looks really good running the football. He shows some explosiveness. He ran through a couple of tackles. There was one time late in the game where he got hit, ahead of the line of scrimmage. And you're talking about maybe 2 yards, 3 yards, and he pushed through that and got a crucial first down there. To continue the drive moving there for them. It was a third down run. Jaden Higgins found the end zone. We heard the head coach saying not long ago. He said these young guys are going to get more involved. Like they're going to be part of what we're doing moving forward. We're seeing it. Davis Mills looking good, man, winning football games for Houston. I think things are trending in the right direction for Houston, but on the other end, it's not trending in the right direction for Buffalo, man. They haven't looked great. I know, Josh Allen had a monster week last week where he had those 6 touchdowns, but he didn't look good in that game. Like he didn't look great in that game. Struggled again yesterday. I'm not counting Buffalo out by any means, but I'll tell you this: like they're not that force that came into the season as one of the favorites in the AFC to make a Super Bowl run. I look at them and I see a lot of other teams just better, well-rounded, better defenses, better offenses, better offensive line. Like not just the quarterback position; it's just as teams. So I am a little bit concerned from what I've seen from Buffalo in recent weeks. Chris, do you have concerns there? Do you think that they're still that major threat, in the AFC, or are there some other teams that you can say now, look, I feel a little bit better about these teams than I do Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this, quite often. Buffalo is a team that you can target with. We've done this a lot with cheap defenses. That's Josh Allen he's a turnover machine. Unfortunately, that comes with the territory of being a dual threat quarterback in the NFL. You are a turnover machine, but I do think there's some other teams that are much better positioned right now in the AFC. You got teams that are playing a lot better, especially in AFC West. So I think Buffalo's reign at the top is probably coming to an end. What's crazy is I think that the New England Patriots, being so young that they are, have at least become neck and neck in that AFC East.
It's funny because I have a friend of mine that's a diehard Patriots fan, and him and I texted a couple of weeks ago, and I told him, in my opinion, the best team in the AFC East right now is the New England Patriots. Like, they're young, but they have a hell of a coach. In my opinion, they found their franchise quarterback after Tom Brady now. Um, you look at this defense, the very good defensive unit. The offense has enough weapons to put points on the board if they need to. They have, I mean, a really good young running back in Travion Henderson. Stevenson is a solid running back as well. Like, this is a team that has a good supporting cast, very well coached, and they're winning football games, right? So they beat this Buffalo team. So in my opinion, they're the best team in the AFC East. But Buffalo's right there. I'm not counting out Buffalo. I'm not ruling out Buffalo. This is not with them. I'm just saying that we have to see things for what they are. And right now, Buffalo's not playing like that elite team that we expected at the beginning of the season. They're nowhere near that, in my opinion. And I feel like there's a lot of deficiencies there on both sides of the football. Offensive line is an issue there right now. The defense is a liability as well. Um, so that's my takeaways. And at Houston, again, they're trending in the right direction. They're unfortunately they are in a division with the Colts, so it's going to be difficult to win their division. But if they continue to win football games, there's a good chance that a wild card is a potential there for Houston, who I think it's a very good football team here and well coached as well. There, Chris. All right, diving into, we got 11 games on the main slate this weekend. I like those kind of slates. I like the 11 game slates. Prefer the 10 game slates, but I'll tell you this: one extra game. There's a couple games I'm going to be fading this week, Chris. Before we dive into, we usually go position by position. We'll do that again here today. We will give at the end of the show some survivor picks as well, and some bets here along the way. But right now, we're going to be focusing on position by position here. And before we dive into it, Chris, let's talk a little bit about this slate, the overall look of this slate. You said you turned in your article. How are you tackling? Is this a a two running back week, a three running back week? Are you paying up at a specific position? How are you tackling the week 12 main slate here this weekend?
So right now, I'm pretty balanced. I'm probably going to end up going three running backs. That being said, I'm still waiting on information like Ramondre Stevenson being ruled out. If he's ruled out or he's maybe at 50%, I think Henderson ends up moving into a core play for me. But I think the running backs are top heavy. Two of my favorite running backs are probably the most expensive on the slate. But there is a lot of wide receiver value to kind of offset that. I will tell you there is probably one quarterback with Joe Burrow, his status up in the air in week 12 that can change a lot of things, especially with Jamar Chase being suspended this week and a lot of guys, going to T. Higgins and Andre Yoshiva. So I do think that there's some paths where we could deviate from where we're at right now. And of course, those changes will be made on Sunday morning. But overall, I think it's a straightforward slate where I'm probably going to go three running backs, hoping that Stevenson's out for another week so I can play Henderson.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, we talk about balance often on the podcast, right? Like, and we talk about it on Sunday morning's live stream as well. For those who you have never tuned in, make sure every Sunday, Chris and I, noon Eastern, we run a live stream DFS show and we go game by game with updated news and stuff like that. But I we often preach balance, and this week is no different for me. I love the balanced approach. I do agree you're going to have to find value somewhere because there are a couple of running backs that are priced up that I'm very intrigued by this weekend. As well as, I'll tell you this, there's a couple of high priced wide receivers, right? I'm still not going to go with a stars or scrub approach. I don't think there's enough value on the slate, or at least appealing value for me to go to complete stars and scrubs. But I definitely think that there are a couple nice low price guys that we can target here this week. So I tend to go balanced. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to go with three running backs or three receivers. I think it's one of those weeks where you can make a strong case for both. I feel like there's a maybe a bucket of players, both running backs and receivers, in that 5 to 6K range that are very appealing. So it's just a matter of what kind of roster construction you want to go with, correlations, if you're game stacking or whatnot. These are all things that might factor into the decision making on whether you go with a three running back or three receiver approach. And Everyone, my bad. I'm waving this around. Just have an injured finger. All right. So if it is, I'm trying to keep it down, but the problem is it's tough. It's tough to keep this down there. So yeah, I'm gonna go balance, Chris. I'm gonna go balance, and I think that's the way to go this week. But I'm totally fine with running backs or wide receiver at the flex here this weekend. Let's dive into the quarterback position, and all the way at the top. Surprising to me, right? Like this was surprising when I first started my process this week to see Drake May as the most expensive quarterback at 6,900. Then we got Patrick Mahomes 68, Lamar Jackson 67, Jalen Hurts 66, Dak Prescott 64, then Daniel Jones 62. The only quarterbacks upwards of 6K here. Is there anyone in this range that stands out to you as a must play or a very strong option? Chris?
So I say Drake May is probably one of my favorite quarterbacks here this week. Again, this is a lot of this is leaning on if Ramondre Stevenson plays or not. But Drake May is in my top Roses royalty as one of my top two quarterback plays. Probably won't get to anyone else. I have Jalen Hurts written up. I just don't trust the pass game enough to where I want to roster him at 6,600. So for me, if I'm going to play anybody here, um, it will be Drake May at the top.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love Drake May. Like my only concern is will the Bengals keep it close enough? I think they can, right? I do think they can because we know that the Bengals can put up points there. But you look at this matchup when Cincinnati has given up the fifth most passing yards to the quarterback position, a 67% completion rate. They're tied for second most passing touchdowns allowed, second most fantasy points per game allowed to signal callers. They rank 32nd in pass DVOA, 29th in pass rush. I mean, this is a stellar matchup for Drake May, who's been just very good this season. Again, I'm in. I think there's a good floor here. I think there's a significant ceiling, and to me, the matchup is just stellar. So I'm in on Drake May. I think you could consider him in all formats here. I agree with you, Jalen Hurts. I think maybe getting exposure through the passing game, through maybe Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert is another way to go instead of having to roster Jalen Hurts. So for me, I probably won't go there, but I think he's firmly in play. Look, Dallas's defense is different. Like that's another thing. We're going to be talking about that throughout the show because there's some players in this game that I'm interested in, but I'm also mindful of the changes that they've made there in Dallas defensively. And yes, they're not, they looked really good last week. The matchup was great. Like it was, it was against the Raiders. But this defense did definitely looked much better than they have, in weeks prior. So I will say that got good credit when it's due there. Patrick Mahomes is also interesting to me. I think this is one of those games that could potentially go overlooked because it's very difficult, but it has a 50-point over under, right? And Mahomes, like we know he's capable of lighting up. This is the Colts defense that somewhat funnels to the pass. They've improved the secondary there as well, but still funnels to the pass. So he's interesting to me. But again, I don't think I'm gonna get to Mahomes or Jalen Hurts here. It's for me, it's going to be if I'm going upwards of 6K, it's probably going to be Drake May. But I'm stuck and I'm kind of fixated on one guy in particular here, and he's right at that 6K mark this week, Chris. And that's Jared Goff. Like I absolutely love Goff here. He's at home where we know that he plays his better football. He's averaging 20.6 DK points per game at home versus 17.2 DK points per game on the road. He has multiple touchdown passes in every single home game this season. Great matchup here against the Giants. They rank 20th in pass DVOA. They've given up the sixth most passing yards, tied for seventh most passing touchdowns, third most fantasy points per game to the position. Goff at 6K really, really stands out to me. And I think you could stack them multiple ways. Like there's so many ways you can stack them here. And you can stack them with the running backs. You can stack them with multiple receivers. Like there are multiple ways to stack them. And at 6K, he really grades out well for me. The one thing about Goff is he doesn't have that rushing element that some of these other quarterbacks bring to the table. But I don't think you need that from him. This is a team that they need to win football games, right? Like they just lost last week. They've lost two of the last three games. They need to win football games. This is a very difficult division. They're sitting third right now in their division. Like they have, one game behind. I think the Packers and the Bears. I think it's one game. So it's an important game, and they have some tough games up ahead. This is one of those games that they got to go out there and they got to put a beating on them. We've seen it. They don't take their foot off the gas. So I don't necessarily think that if the Giants don't keep up, they're going to slow it down. The Detroit Lions don't slow it down. Like they're going to be aggressive. So I'm expecting a massive game here from Jared Goff. Just absolutely love it here. Any thoughts on him?
He was the one guy I left off my quarterbacks article that I did not feel easy about. Good matchup against the Giants. I really like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot this week, which is kind of the reason why I left him off. I do think that this game is one they could win pretty handily, and kind of lean on that run game, both with Montgomery and Gibbs. So I just thought that the volume wasn't going to be enough for Goff.
Yeah, that is the one concern, right? I just
Yeah.
they don't have to pass a ton, but man, I'll tell you this: like I've seen this team be aggressive and aggressive and aggressive, and I look. This is why I said you could stack them because I think we'll talk about Gibbs, but you could play Goff, Gibbs, you know, and Jamison Williams if you want. You know, we'll talk about the receivers soon, but like there's and so you could do it here. I'm in, man. Like he's like that one quarterback that I don't know if I'm going to fade this weekend. Really, really feel strong about Goff here. I think this is a great bounce back spot. If we look down below the 6K range, who is standing out to you this weekend as a strong play?
So one being Sam Darnold, I think is a bounce back spot for Sam Darnold after throwing those 4 picks last week. Even throwing those 4 picks, he still had a chance to win the game. So under 6K, I like him there. Caleb Williams, another guy against a Pittsburgh defense that has been absolutely awful. They have been dog shit the last 4 games. 280 passing yards, 1.5 passing touchdowns. They're also giving up almost 24 fantasy points per game on the road. So I like Caleb Williams there at home. And then the guy that kind of stands out is just Jacoby Brissett. I mean, man, 5 straight games over 20 DK points. Really good matchup against the Jacksonville defense that's given up 2.2 touchdowns, passing touchdowns over the last 9 games, 260 passing yards the last 9 games. Just an absolute smash spot. You know he's going to go. It's going to be 2 guys with Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. Easy stack between those 3.
Easy and affordable too, right? Like that's the crazy thing. Michael Wilson's price is absurd this week. Like the fact that they left him below 5K after last week,
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling to me. I agree with you. I think Jacoby Brissett is a very much in play at 5,300. When you look at the numbers, he's had at least 20 fantasy points in 5 straight games. I mean, it's not always looking pretty. Don't watch the games. It's not always beautiful. It's not art, but listen, he gets it done. The production is there from a fantasy standpoint, and the price remains very, very affordable. I'm with you. I think Sam Darnold's interesting. The thing is, you see, like I kind of feel like they're going to be able to run all over the Titans. Like that's my concern with Darnold, that they'll be able to run all over the Titans and just dominate that game. But again, the matchup is stellar. It's the Titans are just awful in all facets defensively. So I think he's in play. We got word that Jackson Dart's out. So Jameis Winston 4,600. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. It's not as fun without Malik Neighbors. It's not as fun without an alpha receiver that we can be locked in on. But 4,600 Jameis Winston, when you think he's going to throw 40 plus passes, I think he's very much in play in GPPs only. Again, very volatile. We didn't see him pass a ton, but I do expect a very different game environment this week than they had last week. I am expecting, like you mentioned, the Detroit Lions to put a beating on them. And because of that, I expect he's going to have to throw it 40 times. And if Jameis Winston is throwing 40 times, there will be some interceptions, but there will be some touchdowns as well. All right, so 4,600, I think he's very much in play in tournaments. Anything else at the quarterback position, Chris?
Nope. I think we touched on everybody.
Yeah, I'm pretty much locked in on those, guys. And for me, it's really Drake May, Jared Goff, Brissett, and Winston is now in play with that Dart news being ruled out there. All right, let's jump to the running back position. And you said something that really hit me, right? Like you said, there are a couple high-priced guys that are interesting spots. So this week we got a total of 6 running backs at 7,500 or higher. We got Jonathan Taylor at 10K, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley. That's what we have as far as the pricing wise there. We don't know any information about Josh Jacobs. That's important information this weekend. I also think that the Steelers' information is important as well, knowing who's going to start for these backfields as we can see some value open up if the starters miss the game. But right now, as things stand, Chris, who are some of these high price guys that you're prioritizing this week?
100% locking in Bijan and Jameer Gibbs. Two guys, Drake London. Let's start with Atlanta. Drake London being out, Michael Penix being out. They have to at least lean on this run game to win these games. He's played well against New Orleans over the last 2 years, averaging 25 fantasy points per game, 28 opportunities last week. Don't be surprised to see him get 30 opportunities this week, especially with London being out. Kirk Cousins being more of a game manager. I think this is a game where it's going to, they're going to try to establish a run in between the tackles. I like this spot. Don't get me wrong. I like Algier too. I think he's going to get double-digit carries also. So I think this game, you're going to see probably Cousins throw the ball maybe 20, 22, 24 times, and Bijan and this run game really start going. Now on the Detroit side, as I mentioned, I like the run game here. The Giants have not been great against the run. They're ranked 31st over the last 4 games in the league, giving up 35.8 fantasy points per game. That's almost 160 rushing yards per game over the last 4. So, this guy's going to, if he gets 15, 18 carries, he's going to go over 100 yards. He's going to score. Highly involved in the passing game. 8 targets last week, over 107 yards. Absolutely love this spot for Jameer Gibbs.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you as far as Jameer Gibbs is concerned, man. You look at this matchup, New York is dead last in DVOA against running backs, 31st in rush defense, like you mentioned. Giants giving up the second most rushing yards to the running back position, a league high 5.7 yards per carry, tied for the fourth most rushing touchdowns allowed. They've given up a total of 13 touchdowns, giving up the third most fantasy points per game on both sides. I mean, Jameer Gibbs, like you mentioned, in a slam dunk spot for like this week. I absolutely love him. I I think he's very much in play with your golf stacks because of his involvement in the passing game. For the same reasons, I think if you're trying to get cheap and you're looking for a little bit of value, David Montgomery is also very much in play. Just understand there's going to be much more volatility and he's more touchdown dependent. It's not like the kind of role he had last year, so we have to be very mindful of that. And I know it's week 12, most of us know that by now, but just reminding everyone he's not guaranteed those 14 to 15 rush attempts or even 13 to 15 rush attempts like we're accustomed to see here. So he's going to be a little bit more touchdown dependent, but he does also get the great matchup. And if they're playing with that kind of hefty lead, he will get some of those opportunities that we're used to seeing. We saw it just a couple weeks ago when they were playing with a hefty lead there against Washington, where he had 15 rush attempts. It's kind of been the trend there with him, where when they're playing with a good lead, he will get some opportunities there, which should be the case this week. I agree with you, man. I think Bijan is very much in play. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to both of them. I will try, but I do think that's going to be challenging because I do have a player that I'm, trying to prioritize at the wide receiver position that's also expensive here this week. But Bijan, I mean, the opportunities are going to be there. The matchup, like you mentioned, is going to be a very good one here against the Saints. Someone who can be, get you through the air on the ground. Like what he's one of the best running backs in football. So you're not going to get any pushback from me here this week. How popular do you have him at this moment? Because I have him at 24% right now, as far as ownership is concerned. Or do you have him at that chalky as well?
Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense. I think in cash games you don't get cute, right? I think in cash games he should be a staple of your cash games. And even in tournaments, he makes for a very strong chalky play as well. There. One guy in this range that really stands out to me, and I'm going to read out some numbers, but then I'm going to acknowledge something, and it's Saquon Barkley. Dallas, they rank 29th in rush DVOA. They rank 30th in rush defense. The Cowboys are giving up 100.6 rushing yards per game, 4.8 yards per carry. They've given up 10 total touchdowns to the position. They're top 6 in fantasy points per game allowed on each site to the position. Like, yes, the production has not been there for Barkley. I get it, but the opportunities are there. Dallas's run defense looked really good last week. With Williams there, it's a different defense. I know that. I can acknowledge that. But and there's issues with the Eagles' offensive line right now. So that is a concern. But this is also very cheap. And I don't necessarily think that now all of a sudden you cannot run against the Cowboys, right? I think that there will be some pretty good opportunities here for Barkley. I'm in tournaments. I don't know if I want to trust him in cash. I'm in tournaments. I'm not seeing a ton of ownership. And in my opinion, like he still has a significant ceiling, right? He scored a touchdown against his defense in week 1. Like I think this is a good spot for him. I love the price tag. Um, I think this is going to be a great game environment. So for me, I'm in on Barkley. I don't, he's not a core play. He's not a priority by any means, but he's another one in this 7,500 and above range that stands out as a very strong GPP play, Chris. Do you have any thoughts on him this week?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a good spot for Saquon. He's one of the guys I barely left off. Um, just because I don't trust the offensive line right now. I think what's it, Lane Johnson. Was it Lane Johnson just got hurt? He's out for a while.
Mhm.
But I mean, he's coming off 26 carries, 22 carries. This offense just really has not. They put up 26 points over the last two games, which is just absurd. So I do think that this is something internally they have to fix. I do have a feeling this is something similar to like what was it week against the Giants in week 8 where he went absolutely nuclear for 30 points, his best game of the year. So I do feel like this is kind of like trending in that direction. But again, until they get this offensive line figured out and these kinks worked out offensively, where they're scoring more than 15 points a game, I don't think I'm going to be invested in this Eagles offense at all.
Yeah, it definitely is not like it looks much better on paper than it actually is. Like then I want to acknowledge that. It looks so much better on paper than what it actually is. So you have to understand that. I understand that. Like if he ends up on my roster, and I don't think he will end up on my roster this weekend. I did want to point him out because I do think there's a potential ceiling game for him, right? At a suppressed price. And that's what I'm looking at. Um, but I acknowledge that the situation is not as beautiful as it looks on paper. Another guy in that price range that I think the situation's phenomenal is Derrick Henry. I wish there was more involvement in the passing game for Henry because at that point he'd be a lock for me. But I'll tell you this, like I don't hear anyone talking about him. I currently have him at 13% ownership. I think that's a little bit inflated. I don't know where you have him at. Um, I absolutely love this spot for Derrick Henry. The Jets are not a great run defense. This is a game that Baltimore is expected to play with a hefty lead. We've seen the usage be insane for Derrick Henry in recent weeks. Here are the numbers for rush attempts: 18, 20, 19, 21, 24. His last five games. Upwards of 18 rush attempts and opportunities in every single one of those games. If he gets 18 plus opportunities against the Jets, he's going to go for over 100 rushing yards and score at least one touchdown. To me, he is a certified like stud this week, and I would prefer playing him over Barkley at $100 more. This is why I'm having trouble going all the way up for Bijan because you're getting a $900 discount and you're getting a running back who can give you multiple touchdown scores in this game. And I really love Derrick Henry. For me, he's one of my favorite overall plays at the position this evening or this weekend. And for me, I just really like him. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I have it written up. I mean, he's been really good. You mentioned you nailed it on the head with if he gets the opportunities, he's really going to dominate in this matchup. Jets just haven't been good over the last 9 games, giving up over 106 rushing yards. I think this is a good opportunity for him to really dominate on the ground. So for me, I definitely like it.
Yep. Anyone else in this range that you're looking at for the running back position?
If we're going to drop down under 7K, I would just say Travion Henderson. I've already been mentioned on with the Ramondre Stevenson news, just waiting on that. But I don't know if you want to drop down under 7K.
Yeah. I have no one else above the 7K. I mean, we talked about everything. I can't look. Jonathan Taylor's just too expensive for me, and the matchup is not great. Like that's just what it is. Can he get it done? Sure, he's done it against like he could do it against anyone. Like that's the kind of player he is. But we're talking now 10K. Like that's expensive. 10K and then not in a great matchup. Again, he could be a GPP winner for anyone, but I'm not going there this week. And then to add to the Henry thing, like remember the Jets used to have Williams. They don't have Williams anymore. Like that's a big loss for them.
Yep.
All right, let's dive down below that 7,500 range and hover in that 6 to 7K range. You mentioned Travion Henderson, 6,700. Look, there's no question in my mind that Henderson is in a stellar matchup. Cincinnati ranks 31st in rush DVOA, 32nd in rush defense. They've given up the most rushing yards to opposing running backs, 5.4 yards per carry, 15 total touchdowns, the most fantasy points per game on every single site. This is a slam dunk matchup for Trayvon Henderson, who's been balling. Like he's been playing lights out, multiple touchdowns in each of his last 2 games. The opportunities have been through the roof. I mean, he's shown his explosiveness. He's showed his pass catching skills. He's showing his ability to grind it out and run in between the tackles and get those fucking tough yards. Like he's shown every facet of his game in recent weeks. And my only hesitancy is Ramondre Stevenson could be back this week, right? We haven't gotten official news on that as of yet, and he's been practicing on a limited basis. If he returns, we really don't know how the hell they're going to distribute the usage. Like, yes, if you're looking from the outside in, you're going to say, well, there's no way in hell that Henderson's going to be handcuffed or they're going to reduce his touches. Well, guess what? They had this running back on their roster all season long, and they were handcuffing him. Like they were limiting his opportunities. So I don't know what the hell this coaching staff is going to do. I would assume that Henderson's running away with this job no matter what happens, no matter who comes back. But it's a big risk in my opinion. And it's something you have to be thinking of if you're rostering a 6,700 Henderson this week. The matchup is, I mean, incredible, like I mentioned. But I am definitely shitting myself in my pants if Stevenson is active and we don't know what the hell they're going to do here with this backfield. What say you about this situation?
Yeah, same thing. Non-committal. Mike Vrabel won't say that. He's saying that Ramondre Stevens has helped us. He's even talking about their third string running back has helped them win games. So for me, if I know Stevenson is in, I'm probably staying far away from it. Even though this is a smash, probably one of the best matchups that we could get all year. Price tag, who they're playing. It just sucks. I do think Stevenson plays this week. So that's why I'm not going to be 100% high on Henderson.
Yeah, that's my thing, man. Like I believe he's gonna play too. If he's not playing, Henderson's a core play for me, a building block. Like you start every lineup with Henderson. Like that's the way it is. I just don't know. I'm not gonna completely fade Henderson if Stevenson plays. I'll say that. I won't completely fade him. However, I I will not be as comfortable as I would be if Stevenson was out. That's for sure. I think even if you go back to and I don't think this is going to be the case, but even if you go down to like 12 to 15 opportunities for Henderson, he could still thrive in this matchup. Um, but man, it's not as comfortable, that's for sure. Outside of that, I'll be 100% honest with you, Chris. There aren't many running backs in the 6 to 7K range that appeal to me. Everyone else, for me, it's going to be below that 6K range. But do you have anyone in that 6 to 7K range that you're looking at?
Yeah, I got two. I got Javante Williams here against Philly. Not a great spot here, but I do think the opportunity is going to be there coming off 22 carries. Against Stevens, it really hasn't been great in the middle. Then the guy that I like also is Chase Brown. There's a 34% target share up for grabs. Saw 8 targets last week. I do think there's a bump if Joe Burrow's here. Not a great matchup again in the run game, but I do think, as I mentioned this together last week, I think he's going to be involved in the pass game, and he has been. 13 targets against Chicago, 8 targets last week. It's 21 over his last 2 games. I think that's how Cincinnati has to win this game. It's going to be through the air.
Yeah, and I thought about him, and I even have it in my notes like Chase Brown question mark, because like you mentioned, like the Patriots are an elite run defense, right?
Yeah.
They're an elite run defense, but they've allowed the second most targets and the most receptions to opposing running backs. That's basically the outlet to running the football against the Patriots, right? Like you dink and dunk to your running back, like that's the only way you're going to be able to be successful there. An 85% catch rate, and you look at the yardage, 387 receiving yards to position, which is top 10 in the NFL right now. So definitely a path to production here for Chase Brown, even if he struggles on the ground. And like you mentioned, a ton of fucking opportunities up for grabs this week with Jamar Chase suspended for spitting on someone. So yeah, I could get behind that for sure. Look, if Stevenson plays and then now you're concerned, like this is one of those pivot plays that you can kind of go to if you want. I do think there's going to be production in the passing game for Chase Brown, like you mentioned. All right, let's look below this 6K range, and I feel like there are a couple of guys you can make a case for here. Travis Etienne is someone I kind of talk about often on the show, and it's just a matter of opportunities, right? We talk about opportunities. He is dealing with his shoulder injury, but as of right now, it doesn't appear that he is, in any danger of missing this week. Good matchup against Arizona. The usage is there. The ownership is generally suppressed, and he remains sub 6K. Like, I'm going to continue to recommend him at 5,900 every single week if he's getting that kind of usage and the matchups are as favorable as the one at hand. And then one guy this week that to me, I think it could be I think he'd be a GPP winner. Now, it can go in two different ways, and you just have to understand that. And that's Kenneth Walker. And I know how you feel about Ken Walker. I know, but this is GPP only because this is without question a committee in Seattle. But this is a great matchup. Tennessee is giving up the eighth most rushing yards to the running back position, 4.7 yards per carry, second most rushing touchdowns to the running back position. They're top 9 in fantasy points per game allowed to the position on both sides, and they rank 26th in rush DVOA. So the matchup is good. All right. The problem is that the usage in this backfield is split. Zach Charbonnet, Ken Walker, it's pretty much, and it's not exactly a 50-50, but it works like a 50-50 where they ride the hot hand. Charbonnet gets a lot of the opportunities in the red zone as well. Like they're equally splitting those. So it could be one or the other getting in the end zone. I like the explosiveness of Walker. I think he can take one carry and take it all the way to get 6 points there. So I don't mind him at GPP. I think they're going to be playing with a lead here. I mentioned it before. Like that's my concern with Darnold. But I think Ken Walker in tournaments is very much in play this weekend, Chris. What are your thoughts on him? I know you're not a big fan, but what are your thoughts on this backfield, this matchup, and then any other running backs in this range?
Yeah, so I don't have Walker. You pretty much hit the head, nail on the head with my thoughts on that split backfield. I have one guy under 6K that I like a lot this week, and that's Alvin Kamara. First time I think that I have recommended him all year. 18.9 fantasy points per game against Atlanta this season over the last 2 years. Just a good spot where he is dealing with a little ankle injury, but he's been doing that all year. But I do think this is a game where this offense has looked a little bit better under Tyler Shuck. And if you look at what Atlanta's done over the last 4 games, 140 rushing yards, 34.1 fantasy points per game, ranked 30th in the league. So good spot for Kamara, first time all year at a good price tag too.
Yeah, look, it's tough to ignore the usage, right? It's really tough to ignore the usage here for Kamara. So I can get behind that call right there. And then I mentioned it before, we got to keep a close eye on the backfield situation for Pittsburgh and Green Bay. If Warren is out, I think Gainwell is very much in play, Chris, at 5,500. And then if Jacobs is out, what are you going to do with Emmanuel Wilson there at what? 5,300. Like, I think he's gonna see the majority of the workload. Like, are these guys going to be in play for you if these starting running backs are out? I know it's a lot of speculation now, and on Sunday we'll have much more clarity. And maybe even after Friday's practice reports this afternoon. But what would you be doing here in this instance if either starter is out?
I think the guy that I'm probably going to play the most is probably Emmanuel Wilson. We know this Vikings run game has not been able to stop anybody, especially when they stick to the run. So for me, he would be the guy that I would stick in and play.
I agree. I think Wilson will be a nice play there. I think Gainwell will be very much in play too. Like that Bears defense is not one I'd be shying away from by any means there. Any other running backs that you want to discuss or talk about before jumping to the wide receiver position?
I think I hit everyone in my article. No, that's it.
All right, let's dive into the wide receiver position, Chris. And there are 3 wide receivers at 8K or higher, or actually only 2 because Jamar Chase is not playing. So we got Jackson Smith and Jigba at 9K, Amon-Ra St. Brown 8K, and then we'll continue to go all the way down to the 7K range. And we got CeeDee Lamb 7,900, Rashee Rice 77, Justin Jefferson 74. We got T. Higgins 71 there. And well, we know that Drake London will not be playing this week, or is not expected. He hasn't been officially ruled out, by the way, but he's not going to play. In my opinion, it looks like he's listed as doubtful. But I don't see him playing this week, at least at the time that we're recording this. I have him as out in my book. Talk to me about this range, Chris.
The only guy that I have written up in this range is CeeDee Lamb. This Cowboys passing offense has been a little bit better. I think CeeDee Lamb's more of a stable floor. He's still seeing, double digit targets. So I do like the spot for CeeDee Lamb. You can never go wrong with guys like JSN or Monra. It's just a price tag thing for me, man. Like JSN has been great going over 20 fantasy points, but at this point, at his price tag, you need like 35 to 40 now. So that's why I wrote him off. Amon Ra, same thing with Goff. I just don't think there's going to be a ton of volume here. That's why I kind of came down to CeeDee Lamb. Going down to like even 7,400 with Rashee Rice. I think he's in play. He's just expensive. Probably not going to get there. And then Justin Jefferson here, like McCarthy is killing not only my heart, but this passing game. So I can't get the Justin. I just don't trust McCarthy at all.
Yeah, for me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the guy I'm kind of locking in on at the top. You look at this matchup, New York ranks 24th in coverage against opposing wide receivers, 22nd in DVOA against opposing wide receiver one. They've given up the third most receptions, fourth most receiving yards, are tied for eighth most touchdowns allowed, top 8 in fantasy points per game allowed to the position on both sides. You look at the role here. 10 plus targets in 4 of his last 5 games. He's top 5 in the NFL in red zone targets, top 3 to be exact. I mentioned before this is an important game for the Lions. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is very much in play here. Someone who just continues to give you a stable floor, and there's an undenying ceiling there. So I absolutely love him. I agree with you. Like, I think Jackson Smith-Jigba is always going to be very much in play, but I don't. I look at this game, they're favored by 13 and a half points, right? They can run the football at will against the Titans. Like, how much passing volume are we going to have here with JSN? Can he get it done? Without a ton of volume, sure. But I'm looking for a potential ceiling game out of someone that I'm paying 9K for, and I just don't know if I'm going to get that this week given the game environment. That's my one concern. Everything else checks off, right? Like the matchup is great, everything is great. It's just the price and ceiling thing for me. I agree with you on CD Lamb. I think he's another one that you can strongly consider in this price range. And then the one other guy in the 7K and above range for me this week that stands out as a very, very strong play is T. Higgins. He's going to be operating as a number one wide receiver there in Cincinnati with Jamar Chase out. And this is a New England team that funnels to the pass. They're 32nd in DVOA against wide receiver ones, ranked 29th in pass defense. They're tied for the second most touchdowns allowed to the wide receiver position. He should see plenty of opportunities, and he's done very good in his last 5 games. And Tyler Beaker points this out in his wide receiver article that, the last 5 games without Jamar Chase, T. Higgins has gone for 349 and 1, 760 and 0, 9 148 0, 7 114 1, 5 140 1. This is a game where the Bengals are going to be chasing points, if you ask me. It has a 51.5 over under. We know Joe Flacco is not afraid to sling it. I absolutely think that T. Higgins can go bananas here and have himself a ceiling game. And Chris, I think he could do it at 7,100. I like him a lot this week. I've always viewed T. Higgins as someone who could be their wide receiver one for their team, and he's always worked behind Jamar Chase. Without Jamar Chase, he's going to have that opportunity to be that wide receiver one, that alpha, and it's a good matchup. So I'm in on T. Higgins, man. I absolutely love it. And I really think that if you're stacking, Drake May and company, he is the perfect bring back here at 7,100. Chris, any thoughts on T. Higgins?
Yeah, I mean he's going to be de facto number one here. Touchdowns in 4 straight games. If you believe it or not, over the last 9 games, New England on paper looks good, but they're giving up 1.3 passing touchdowns to wide receivers over those 9 games. So I do think that him moving over to that wide receiver one role going to be chalky, but it's 7,100. I think it's especially if Burrow comes back. If Burrow comes back, I'd be more inclined to even just lock him in and move forward.
Yeah. In the only 2 games with 9 or more targets, he's topped 95 yards and has scored at least 1 touchdown. I think his floor this weekend is 10 targets. I truly think his floor is 10 targets. I don't see it any other way. Like, I really don't see it any other way there. All right, let's jump below the 7K range and let's focus on that. Maybe 5 or 6 to 7K. There's some pretty good appealing options there. Diggs, I'm assuming you're going to be in on Diggs if you're in on Drake May. Is he your pairing
You know,
option with May?
yeah, in on Diggs, in on Olave, those two similar price tags.
Yeah, I'm completely in on Diggs this week as well. He's that kind of that player in this range that stands out to me the most. I love Michael Pittman. I think by now everyone that listens to this podcast knows that I absolutely recommend him each and every week. To me, the price has been stable, continues to be stable. There's a safe floor. There's a pretty much a significant ceiling. I expect this to be a back and forth game. I think this is a good way to get exposure to this game with a high total. And I don't think many people are going to be on him. He grades out very well for me. Someone I like quite a bit in this range. Then everyone else for me is below 6K. So like it's Diggs, Pittman. You can make a case for Olave, like you said, and then everyone else falls below that 6K range for me. I think it's a very fruitful range. And I'll start off with Jameson Williams. I mentioned it before. We've already talked about this matchup being very favorable. And then when you look at, the Giants, they also ranked 29th in DVO against wide receiver twos. Jameson Williams, TD in three straight games and in four of his last five, six or more targets in four of his last 5 games, just more involved there. And I think that continues this week. I know that he's considered a hit or miss guy or boom or bust, however you want to, label it. He's been far more consistent as late. Yes, he does have a one bad game. Sure. But he's been far more consistent. I'm in. If you can't get to St. Brown and you want a 3-man line stack, he's another way to get in. You get what is it? Gibbs, Goff, and Williams. I think you got yourself a fun stack there with a lot of upside, a significant ceiling, and what I expect to be a very good game for this offense, man. So, any thoughts on Williams? And then we'll talk about some of the other guys in this range.
Yeah, I do like the price tag on him. He's been heavily involved. 6 targets or more in 3 straight games, touchdown in 3 straight games. Definitely like that for him.
Devonta Smith. I know how you feel about him. I know you're gonna shake your head, but we got to talk about it. We got to talk about him. I'm digging the price. I am. I'm digging the price. I'm digging the opportunities. He has 9 or more targets in 3 of his last 4 games. You look at the Cowboys; they're dead last in DVOA against opposing wide receiver two. They've given up the seventh most receiving yards, a 70% catch rate there. A league high 17 receiving touchdowns. They're top 2 in fantasy points per game allowed to the position on both sides. I like it, man. I like it. This is my way of getting exposure to this Eagles passing game. If you want to get exposure to this Eagles offense, he's my favorite player in this offense this weekend. So 5,600, I think, is a very nice price tag for him. I think he should be more in that 6 to 6,500 range. So I feel like we're getting a little discount. I understand how you feel about him. But
I'm
when I
out.
look at everything, I know you're out. I know you're out, but I have to mention him. I know you're out, but I have to mention him. I do like him here quite a bit. Um, Anyone else in this range, Chris, that you're looking at?
No, I have no one else.
No Romo Duze for you at 6,100?
I typically write him up. I didn't think that I had to this week. I don't love the matchup, to be honest with you. But I mean he's probably 10th for me.
Yeah. Any Wandale Robinson like consideration if you're trying to run it back? Like who would you be running? Would you be running it back with anyone?
Theo Johnson probably.
Theo Johnson. I like that call out, by the way.
Yeah. 4,100. I'll definitely get some Theo Johnson love there.
All right. And for me, I'll be honest with you, like you can make cases for several guys here. But again, I don't know if I'm gonna go there myself. Metcalf being one of those guys, it's just that boomer bust situation there with him. If we go a little bit lower, sub 5K, I'm not fading Michael Wilson. Very simple. I'm not fading Michael Wilson, and it's not because I'm chasing 18 targets. I'm very realistic. 18 targets is not going to happen again, but he's going to be very involved in the passing game. Like Jacoby Brissett is going to lock in on him and Trey McBride is pretty obvious. So I'm expecting another game of upwards of 8 to 9 targets, and if I'm guaranteed 8 to 9 targets at 4,800, I'm in. It's that simple for me. I'm in. Um, where are you at with Michael Wilson? Are you in again?
Yeah, core play. No,
Yeah.
don't even think about it. Too cheap.
Jaguars 18th in DVOA against opposing wide receiver ones. There. Any interest in Darnell Mooney with with London likely to be out?
Yep, Mooney should work as that wide receiver one. I wrote him up as well. I mean, he's seen 15 targets over his last two games, averaging 11.6 fantasy points per game against New Orleans over the last 2 years. So definitely in on Mooney at a cheap price.
Anyone else at sub 5K that you're looking at?
So I have two other guys that I do like. One being Cedric Tillman, working his way back from missing those 4 games. I do like him at his price tag at 3,700. And then I wrote up two Cincinnati Bengals here. The other one being Andre Yoshivas at 4,100. He's that slot guy that he's been targeted 11 times over the last 2 games, even with everyone being healthy. So I do think if they shut down T. Higgins, I do think there has to be a secondary option, that being Yoshivas.
I like that Yoshi call a lot. I think he's very much in play as well. I'm going to add Mac Hollins to this combination, but this is more of a GPP play than anything else.
Yeah.
Look, at least 4 targets and 60 plus receiving yards in 3 of his last 4 games. The matchup is elite. We've already talked about the matchup here. So I love the matchup. Very hit or miss, very boom or bust. So it's GPP only. And preferably like not a one-off, preferably in your stacks, right? Like that's kind of where I'm playing Hollins, not necessarily as a one-off play here. He's preferably a run back to the game, to the stacks, or you're stacking him yourself. But that's how I would treat Hollins. Outside of that, not much else here in this below 5K range. Ready to jump to the tight end position here?
Yes.
To pay or not to pay up for Trey McBride this week is the question, Chris.
Yeah, that's never the question. 6,800 is a tough price tag to absorb, but he does have arguably the highest upside at any position on the slate.
In addition to the highest upside, the matchup is actually very, very good as well. Jacksonville, they're top 6 in receiving yards allowed to the position. You look at the production there, they're top 2 in fantasy points per game allowed to the tight end position. So great match. Like the matchup is also good. It is very steep, but he has 30 plus DK points in back-to-back games. He's had 20 plus DK points in 4 of his last 6 games there. So been very, very good. If you can get up to him, I'm not going to talk you out of it. Like there's just no way. I had him last week in my afternoon only slate. It paid dividends. The return on investment was great. He's going to see an abundance of opportunities here. Once again, he's top 5 in the NFL as well in red zone targets. So like there's going to be valuable opportunities for him. So I like him. This is one of those weeks where if you can get up to him, I recommend it. Brock Bauer, 6K, Tyler Warren, 5,500, Jake Ferguson, 5,300, Travis Kelce, 5K are the only other tight ends at 5K or above. Again, you can make a case for a lot of these guys. The one guy that does stand out to me a lot in this range is Travis Kelce. The Colts ranked 28th in DVOA against tight ends. They're tied for 9th most receptions allowed to the tight end position, 3rd most receiving yards given up to the position, 72% catch rate. They're top 3 in fantasy points per game allowed on both sides here. Really good matchup for Kelce, who's shown some vintage performances as of late. He coming off a game where he had 91 yards and a touchdown on 9 receptions. A couple of weeks ago, he had 6 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown. So 90 plus receiving yards in 2 of his last 3 games. I think when you're targeting this Colts defense, this is the way you want to do in the middle of the field. I think Travis Kelce's going to eat here, bro. And at 5K, I'm in. Like I'm in. He's $1,800 discount from McBride. I don't think you get the same ceiling, but I do think you're getting a lot of upside at 5K. So, any thoughts on Kelce?
Yeah, I have him wrote up. He's back heavily involved in the passing game. So I think it's a great spot. 5K is definitely a good price tag for him in this game. In a game that's probably gonna be a high scoring game.
I agree. I agree, man. And he's had some pretty decent performances here. And he at least look over 50 receiving yards in every game since week 5. Right. And he's had now a couple of 90 plus receiving yard games. I think it's only a matter of time before we see that 100 plus yard game and that touchdown. And this could be that week, I think, Chris, for
Yeah.
Travis Kelce. So I'm in on Travis Kelce. Love the price, love the matchup, love the game environment. He checks off most, if not every single box for me. Chris, anyone else above this 5K range that you're looking at this week, or are you looking a little bit lower?
A little bit lower.
All right,
A
so
little bit
who are
lower.
you on this week?
So a couple guys. One being AJ Barner. I love the spot for AJ Barner at his price tag. What's he, 3,300? Heavily involved this past game, 11 targets last week, 10 receptions. So I like him a lot there. I like Dallas Goddard. I mentioned I don't like the passing game. I
Yes.
like Dallas Goddard at 4,200. And then the other guy again, another Brown. I'm sorry, another Cincinnati Bengal, and that's Noah Fant at 3,100. There's not a ton of tight ends that I love this week, and I'm keeping my player pool pretty much to a limit.
I had a feeling you were gonna say no offense. I'm digging that call.
Yeah.
I am digging that call here. When you look at Noah Fant, you're gonna see some increased opportunities. I love the Dallas Goddard call, by the way, right? Like I feel like he's super consistent. The matchup is good here as well, against Dallas here. They're 19th in DVOA against opposing tight end, so good matchup there for Goddard, who's been very consistent here at a very cheap price. Chris, Theo Johnson, another one that I'm in on this week. You mentioned his name before. If you're stacking it, Detroit 17th in DVOA against opposing tight end. So really liking this matchup here for Theo Johnson, who I think is going to see some nice opportunities in a game where they should be chasing points. You look at Theo Johnson, man, he's been kind of steady in the PPR section with at least 5 PPR points in 5 consecutive games or 2 games of over 14 DK points at 4,100. I think that there's nice upside in a good game environment here for the passing game in New York. You got Jameis Winston. We know he likes to hit his tight ends. I think he'll be hitting Theo Johnson here this week. Um, Outside of that, though, not much else for me. No love here for Jawan Johnson at 4K.
No.
No, I'm okay with him. Like that's where I'm cutting it off. And then anyone below the 4K range that you're looking at. I know you mentioned Noah Fan at 3,100, but anyone else? I got one more guy.
Fant and AJ Barner.
I got Hunter Henry. I got Hunter Henry here as another guy who to consider at that sub 4K. Very volatile, but again, the matchup against the Bengals is definitely intriguing. And then I think one guy that's going to see a lot of volume, though I'm not necessarily enamored with the matchup at hand. Um, Mason Taylor. I think he's
Mhm.
going to be somebody who sees a lot of volume here with the quarterback change. I think that's going to improve his situation a little bit more with Tyrod Taylor under center. So someone to consider in GPPs. Don't trust him in cash games. But again, I do think he's someone that in that price range is going to see upwards of 5, 6 targets, and I think that'll be enough to return value here this week, Chris. All right, let's jump into the tight end. I'm sorry, the defense position. We already finished. You don't have anything else at tight end, right?
No.
All right, defense position. You and I generally scroll all the way down and move our way up here, Chris. What are you doing this week at defense? Are you paying down? Are you paying up? How are you treating this position?
So I think again, a lot of this depends on the health of a team, but I think the Vikings defense at 2,500 going into Lambeau, even being a big dog there at 6.5, I do think that the Vikings at 2,500, they're a team that generates a lot of turnovers. They just suck offensively. So Vikings are one at 2,500, and then working my way up. I think the next team I would be is probably the Saints against Atlanta, a banged up Atlanta. I know I love Bijan here, but I think they're a defense that um, cheap enough. And then for me, my rankings are the Browns, the Falcons, the Patriots, Steelers, and Bears in that order without even taking into price considerations.
Yeah, for me, if I'm dropping all the way down, it's going to be the Titans at home against Seattle. Darnold does tend to see goals sometimes and turn the ball over. Don't mind that. I think the Saints at 2,500 are very intriguing. That probably ends up where I like. That's probably where I end up this weekend with the Saints at 2,500 against the Falcons, with Kirk Cousins under center there. And then if you keep moving a little bit higher, I think the Browns against, the Raiders, I think that's a very good matchup. My only concern there is Sanders under center. Like, how many 3-and-outs is that defense going to see in that game? And that might tire them out. But man, the Raiders have looked absolute dog shit. Like they look terrible. So Cleveland's that other team that I'm looking at. But yeah, I think you could really make a strong case for a lot of those, 25 to 3K range defenses. If you fall anywhere there, I think the Steelers are very much in play as well. Um, I think you can make a strong case for a lot of these teams here. So I'm totally fine. It's probably going to be New Orleans And if I can get up to the Cleveland Browns, it's probably the one I feel the best about this week at 2,900. It probably grayed out as my top defense. It's just a matter of do I have the extra 400 or not to spend up this week, Chris? And that's it for defense, really. I don't care to pay up for the position. All right, before we get going, let's give a couple of survivor picks. Let's give some bets this week, and then we'll close it out with where you can find all of the work and all that stuff. But Chris, survivor picks of the week. Where are you at this week?
So Survivor pick, I'm sure nobody's played them yet, but I'm gonna go. Maybe they have, but I'm gonna go Seattle against Tennessee as one Survivor pick, and then another team that you probably haven't used at all this year. I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders over the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, so look, we talked about I think Ravens were our pick last week. If you didn't use them, you still have them
Ooh, that
available.
was close. That was
Yeah,
a
I know.
close one.
That was closer. That was closer than we liked. Definitely closer than we liked. They're my certified, this week. I think the Lions, if you haven't used them, are also right up there. And Seattle is the other one if you haven't used that are up there for me. And if you're trying to get different, I got two for you. The Saints beating the Falcons. I have them as one there. And then I agree with you. I think the Raiders over the Browns, that's another one that you could take a risk on. I'm not as excited about that one, but I do think that the Raiders could win in that low scoring game there against the Browns, Chris. Bets for this week. Talk to me about any bets you got going this week.
Listen, I'm going to be a homer. I'm taking Minnesota on the road as almost a 7-point dog at plus 6.5. I like them here. Um, I do like Atlanta getting points in New Orleans. I think they win that game. And then I like Dallas to beat Philly. Taking two dogs
Dallas,
here. With three
there you
dogs
go.
here.
All right, so I'm gonna go a little bit different. I'm gonna give you guys three that I like right here, and so I'm gonna take New Orleans -2. I think New Orleans outright wins this game. So I'm gonna take New Orleans -2. All right, I'm gonna take the Colts getting 3.5 points. I think this is the things shift this week. All right, we're gonna see a shift in the AFC. We're gonna see the Colts win in Kansas City. They're getting 3.5 points, so I'm getting the 3.5 points. So if they lose by 3 points, we're still winning. All right, I'm not saying play the money line. I'm saying take those 3.5 points there. So I like that. And I'll be honest, I like getting the 2.5 there in Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh goes to Chicago and wins that game too. So I'm getting the 2.5 points in Pittsburgh. All right, so we got New Orleans -2. We got the Colts plus 3.5, and we got Steelers plus 2.5. That's what we're going with this week here, Chris. All right. Let everyone know where they can find your work. Let everyone know what you got cooking. You already submitted the article. What else you got going on this week? I know you got college football. You do a little bit of everything. So what else you got cooking this week?
So I won't be on the college football live stream this evening. I can't tell you what I'm doing this tonight, but it's embarrassing. But so I won't be on tonight, but I do have the GPP article coming out tomorrow, the DK live, the DK night slate for college football coming out Saturday, and of course our live stream 12 p.m. Sunday.
Chris has a hot yoga class this evening. That's why he
yoga
can't.
class at 6:30
Hot yoga
p.m.
class at 6 p.m. And that's why he cannot go on the college live stream there. All of my work is already posted over at fantasyguru.com. All of my content is already there. On Sunday morning, Chris and I will be on live at noon. I might be joining tonight on the Roster Coach live stream. I'm not sure yet. I'm on call for the Roster Coach live stream with Tyler Beaker tonight. If he does need my services, I'll be there chatting football with the great Tyler Beaker. So keep an eye out for that. Even if I'm not on, I suggest you guys tuning in 7 p.m. Eastern each and every Friday. Tyler does a great job with his guests there, talking football, breaking down the slate, and giving a strong analysis there for the DFS, just like Chris and I did here. Chris, always a blast talking football with you. Always a blast chopping the slates up with you, man. Again, always a good time, dude, talking this sport with you, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you jumping on. Remember, you can find me and all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Armando Marsal. Remember, if you join the podcast, enjoying the content, enjoying all of this stuff, make sure you're following, rating, reviewing, liking the podcast wherever it is you're consuming it. Thank you guys all for tuning in this week. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's journey through the mind of Marsal. Until next time.